Before the flood, before the Exodus, before the cross, they came. They didn't fall, they descended. And what they taught didn't come from heaven. It was knowledge forged in rebellion, whispered from forbidden realms, and sown onto a fertile ground not meant for its seeds. They touched the earth, loved women with an intensity that warped creation, forged swords not just of metal, but of deceit and conquest, stirred the womb, not for life's continuation, but for its corruption. What was born from that contact was neither man with the simple dust of the earth in his veins, nor angel, pure spirit from the celestial realms. It was heresy in living flesh, monstrosities of unparalleled might and depravity. They were called Nephilim, and they almost rewrote creation, threatening to derail the divine plan for humanity itself. But heaven answered with a thunderous silence, a deliberate and final judgment, and the seal was closed temporarily on this dark chapter. Genesis, Enoch. And what remained after the silence? Fragments of truth, whispered legends, and the lingering scars on the fabric of reality. It all begins after they descend. When they descended, not all angels obeyed the Creator's solemn decrees. These were not beings who stumbled into error or were overcome by weakness. They chose. They made a conscious, defiant decision to abandon their post, to forsake their sacred duty, and to transgress the most fundamental laws of the cosmos. They descended, but they didn't fall as a result of a direct celestial war, but rather through an act of profound, deliberate rebellion. They took what wasn't given to them, not just earthly pleasure, but dominion, power, and the right to interfere with the nascent human story. And they taught what was sealed, unlocking forbidden knowledge, tearing open ancient texts, and sharing secrets meant to remain hidden until the end of time. They ate not just earthly food, but the very essence of human experience, twisting it to their dark purposes. They created, not in the image of the divine, but grotesque mockeries of life. They loved with a possessive, destructive passion that led to chaos. They destroyed not merely structures or lives, but the very purity of the human lineage, corrupting the delicate balance of creation. And from this unholy union, something heaven never forgave was born. Giants, not merely large men, but towering beings imbued with a primal savagery, a thirst for blood, and an innate cruelty. Blood, not just spilled on battlefields, but flowing through tainted veins, altering the very essence of life. Corruption, a spiritual and physical decay that seeped into every fiber of existence, from the individual soul to the very ground underfoot. And the silence, the sacred order of creation, was broken by the clamor of their blasphemous existence. This is the story the world forgot, buried under millennia of myth, misinterpretation, and deliberate suppression. But heaven still remembers every detail, every transgression, every broken oath. Genesis 6 was never fully told. Its verse is merely a cryptic whisper of a cataclysmic truth. But the time has come for the veil to be lifted, for the forgotten to be remembered. If this story already gave you chills, a cold dread creeping up your spine, imagine what's coming next as we delve deeper into this hidden history. Like this video now, subscribe to Glorify Forever, and share it with someone who needs to discover the forgotten truth of the Nephilim. The journey is just beginning, and you are about to witness the unveiling of an ancient mystery, the unveiling of ancient transgression, the wars and kingdoms that shaped human civilization as we know it, before the covenant and the law that defined humanity's relationship with the divine, before the flood that washed the earth with heaven's tears, a torrential outpouring of sorrow and judgment. There was a time when the veil between worlds was not merely thin, but violently torn. They didn't fall from grace in a singular, cataclysmic plunge. They descended, a deliberate and calculated movement from the celestial to the terrestrial. And it wasn't an accident, a slip of cosmic duty. It was a choice, a rebellion born of desire, a thirst for forbidden experiences, and an arrogant belief in their own power to defy the almighty angels, watchers, observers, beings of pure light, created for reverence and service, but seduced by the sensual, tangible touch of the earth, the beauty of human women, the richness of earthly delights, the intoxicating allure of power over a nascent humanity. These were temptations they could not resist. They weren't cast into the abyss by force initially. They walked into it by choice. They descended into a spiritual abyss of their own making. And they opened the door with their own hands, unsealing ancient cosmic boundaries and unleashing forces never meant to intermingle. They saw the daughters of men, their grace, their beauty, their vulnerability, and they wanted more than just to look, more than just to observe from afar. They craved intimacy, possession, and ultimately, corruption. They took what wasn't theirs, violating the sacred bond between humanity and its creator, imposing their will upon free beings. They invaded the womb that was meant to bear man, pure and untainted, designed to carry the divine spark, and implanted a plan so insidious, so blasphemous, that not even hell dared to dream of such an abomination. To create a hybrid race, a mockery of both divine and human, a living affront to creation. They forged swords, not just of mundane metal, but imbued with dark arts, teaching humanity the precise means of mass slaughter and conflict. They taught enchantments, whispers of power drawn from forbidden dimensions, twisting natural laws and opening pathways to malevolent entities. They tore open the seals of forbidden knowledge, revealing the secrets of the cosmos that were meant for divine understanding alone, unleashing a deluge of chaotic wisdom upon an unprepared world. They showed men how to break clay with iron, teaching the art of war, conquest, and destruction with brutal efficiency. They showed them how to wound with metals from the abyss, infusing weaponry with unholy properties, and how to rule the skies with all-seeing eyes, giving them understanding of celestial movements, not for worship, but for divination and control, twisting cosmic order into instruments of power. Their science didn't come from heaven, from the benevolent wisdom of the divine. It came from a darker place, deeper, older than Eden itself, from primordial chaos and rebellion that predated even the fall of Lucifer. It was a knowledge born of defiance, designed to unravel the very fabric of existence. From the womb of transgression, they were born Nephilim, not men, for their lineage was tainted by celestial rebellion, not angels, for they were bound to physical form and earthly desires, living abominations of flesh and corrupted glory, walking paradoxes that defied all natural and divine order. Giants, terrifying in their immense stature and brute strength, bloodthirsty hunters, preying on humanity with a savage delight, devourers of hope, consuming not just flesh, but the spirit of resistance, the essence of joy, leaving only despair in their wake. They walked among men like gods, demanding worship, tribute, and absolute obedience. And men, overwhelmed by their power and deceived by their false wisdom, worshiped them. Bowing down to these living idols of chaos, they almost rewrote creation, threatening to erase the divine blueprint for humanity, to replace God's intended path with a monstrous, hybrid lineage that would forever sever the link between man and his maker. But heaven still remembered its promise, its plan for redemption, the divine response and the lingering echo. And then the silence broke, not with a whimper, but with a thunderous, divine decree. A holy wrath stirred. A profound sadness permeated the cosmos. A decree was given: my spirit shall not strive with man forever. This was a declaration that the divine patience had reached its limit, that the corruption had gone too far, too deep. And the waters, the very tears of heaven, began to rise, a cleansing deluge, a cosmic reset. And before the first thunder, before the storm fully broke, the seal was closed, the intermingling stopped, and justice fell with the rain, a torrent of righteous judgment. Men didn't know what they were creating in their desperate pursuit of forbidden knowledge and power. They were unwitting pawns in a cosmic game, blindly unleashing forces beyond their comprehension. But heaven knew and watched in silence, observing every act of depravity, every genetic alteration, every broken spirit, while the Nephilim ruled. While their war cries echoed through valleys of a corrupted earth, the flaming eyes of the Most High skinned every heart, every womb, every sword stained with innocent blood, because that was no longer life as intended. It was living abomination, a mockery of divine design, a grotesque perversion of creation. But the horror didn't start on battlefields, with the clash of giants and men. It began on sacred mountains, where the Watchers, those fallen angels, made their unholy pact. 200 angels descended upon Mount Hermon under Semyaza's leadership. not for war, but for counsel, a dark deliberation. They knew they were breaking an eternal command, a sacred oath sworn before the Creator. But lust, the insatiable craving for forbidden experiences and power, proved stronger than fear, stronger than their understanding of divine wrath. Let us swear an oath among ourselves and bind one another with a curse, Semyaza declared, his voice echoing with dark resolve. So we will not turn back from this work until it is completed. They sealed the pact with names, each angel pledging his being to the transgression. And names carry power, not just identity, but resonance, karmic weight, binding them to their dark destiny. The knowledge they brought wasn't light, the illumination of truth from above. It was poison, a corrosive wisdom that fractured souls and twisted minds. Azazel taught men to forge swords, knives, and armor, turning tools of defense into instruments of aggression and domination. Semyaza revealed enchantments and astrology, drawing humanity into occult practices and false divinations. Kakabeel, the stars, teaching their movements not for navigation or wonder, but for dark omens and control. Hanemu, the secrets of soul and spirit, showing how to manipulate the inner workings of beings. Kasdeja, the dark sciences of destruction, teaching abortion and the killing of children in the womb, deepening the abyss of depravity. Science without God is destruction, a wild beast unleashed without moral guidance, and wisdom torn by force from heaven carries a curse, a spiritual blight that inevitably leads to ruin. Men were seduced by the promise of power, women corrupted by the allure of forbidden unions, creation deformed by the mingling of dissimilar essences. And then, the outcry rose. It screamed from earth to heaven, not just the cries of the dying, but the groans of a defiled planet. The righteous cried out for deliverance. The innocent died in untold numbers, their blood soaking the ground. Creation groaned under the weight of abomination, its natural order fractured, and the holy angels, the faithful ones, those who maintained their allegiance to the Most High, ran to the throne with the Book of Remembrance, where every transgression was meticulously recorded. Lord of Lords, Eternal King, what shall we do? Those on earth shed blood, the giants destroy, and the watchers have taught iniquity, corrupting the very blueprint of man. And God responded, not with words, not with a prolonged deliberation, but with a swift, decisive decree. Corruption has multiplied beyond measure. The souls of the dead cry out for justice, a righteous vengeance against their tormentors. And justice shall be done, swift and absolute. Uriel descended with fire, a purging flame that consumed all defilement. Raphael with healing for the broken earth and sentence for the transgressors. Gabriel with sword, executing divine judgment against the watchers and their offspring. And Michael with final judgment, chaining the rebellious angels in the deepest pits. The Nephilim were hunted to extinction, their reign of terror brought to a brutal end. The watchers chained in Tartarus, their defiance forever imprisoned. And the earth, prepared to be cleansed, washed anew by the waters of judgment. But the darkest part was yet to come, because sin doesn't truly die. It hides, it whispers, it leaves its indelible mark on the spiritual and genetic fabric of the world. And their blood, the very essence of their corrupted being, stained generations, leaving a lingering echo of their monstrous existence. The rain fell, and with it, the giants fell, their colossal forms crashing into the rising waters. The world screamed in its final moments, and then went silent, covered by a watery shroud. Waters covered mountains, peaks that once touched the heavens now submerged in a watery tomb. Cities vanished, swallowed by the deluge. The echoes of screams were lost to the abyss. A history literally washed away. The resurgence, and the final warning bit. Not everything died, because sin doesn't need a body to continue its nefarious work. It needs memory and a name. The watchers were sealed in the depths, imprisoned in eternal darkness. But their children, those monstrous Nephilim, left inheritances, not of wealth or land, but of spiritual and genetic residues that persisted. Rumors, bones of impossible size unearthed by future generations. Legends whispered in ancient tongues, distorted but persistent. Fragments scattered across generations, carried through survivor lineages, through myths, through the very earth itself. In the land of Canaan, after the flood, long after the world was supposedly cleansed, the Anakim, Rephaim, and Emim appeared, men of impossible stature, kingdoms ruled by bloodlines impure, their existence a living testament to the lingering taint of the Nephilim. These were not mere anomalies, they were echoes of an era that should have ended with the flood, proving that the ancient corruption had found a way to persist. When the spies sent by Moses to scout the promised land saw the inhabitants, their hearts melted and they trembled with fear. There we saw the sons of Anak, descendants of the Nephilim, and in our own eyes, we were like grasshoppers, a chilling realization that the nightmare of old had returned. And if they survived, if the bloodline persisted in Canaan, where else might they be hiding? Lurking in the shadows of history, waiting for their moment to return. Ancient stories from across the globe tell of civilizations with giant gods, with impossible pyramids and portals to other dimensions, of Nibiru, the Anunnaki, sunken temples, and lost wisdoms. Coincidence? Or fragments of the same truth, distorted by time and myth, that the Nephilim weren't forgotten, weren't completely eradicated, they were scattered, their essence dispersed, their influence woven into the very fabric of human history. And they wait patiently, subtly, and the worst part, they no longer need to be giants to rule. Their power has evolved, adapted to a modern world. Now they act from the invisible, from behind the curtains of influence. Through ideology, shaping the way humanity thinks and believes, twisting morality and truth, through soulless science, pushing the boundaries of creation without ethical restraint, playing God with genetic codes and artificial intelligence, through spirituality without God, offering empty promises and false enlightenment, leading souls astray. In the womb of a new humanity, they seek to re-establish their dominion, not through brute force, but through subtle infiltration and manipulation. Today, we live in days strikingly like those of Noah. Genesis 6 lives again before our eyes, not as a historical footnote, but as a chilling prophecy unfolding. Men play at being gods, editing DNA, defying the Creator's design with arrogant confidence. They mix clay with steel and spirit with machine, blurring the lines between man and machine, life and artificiality. But heaven still remembers, and the seal, once closed on the ancient transgression, can be broken again, ushering in the final, ultimate confrontation, when Jesus said, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." He wasn't just talking about rain or natural disasters. He was talking about genetic corruption, about ancient alliances being rekindled, about a cycle of rebellion and divine judgment ready to repeat, but this time on a global, undeniable scale. This is the story the world tried to erase, to bury under layers of skepticism and forgotten lore. But heaven still writes it, etched into the very fabric of time and destiny. And now, you are a witness, privy to a truth many refuse to see. If this story shook you to your core, if it ignited a spark of recognition within you, then share it with those who need to wake up before it's too late. Comment below what you believe truly happened in the days of Noah, what insights this has brought you, and prepare for more hidden truths to be unveiled here on Glorify Forever. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single revelation. Until the next chapter, keep seeking the truth.